Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, I've got a very special video for you. We're back after a long hiatus here on the channel. I've been taking a little bit of a break. I mean, SHOT Show was an utter grind. Things have been absolutely crazy. Been doing some home improvements, some remodeling, getting things in order, working out, just kind of taking a break, kind of mentally refreshing and everything like that. So we're eager to get back and get some filming done for you guys and everything. And I appreciate all of your patience. And what better way to get back into the swing of things than to bring on my good friend here, Mr. Michael Cargill. Now, you guys know from in the past, we've done a lot of work with Michael here on the channel because he has a doozy of a Supreme Court case that's right now in front of the Supreme Court. The oral arguments have been initially submitted. Things are going well. And you guys know this has to do with the Bumpstock case. So I have here Mr. Michael Cargill himself. And Michael, how are things?
Man, Eric, things are going great. We're in cloud 9 right now. We are, at least I am, waiting for the Supreme Court to actually let us know, what their thoughts are and lay this all out for us. So we were able to present our case to the United States Supreme Court. My attorney did a wonderful job. And some people are criticizing him, thinking he should have done certain things, but I'm going to break all that stuff down for you today. So my attorney presented our case. The government presented their case. And I think of it like this. There are people that are on that are in the no column. They're Supreme Court justices. They're just going to say no. No, they're not going to vote for us or anything like that, or vote for our, what we're hoping for. So when questions are asked from those people that are in the no column, do you want to spend that time, addressing their issue, or do you, or risk the chance of you taking a yes vote and turn that yes vote into a no? So my attorney had to play a little chess game there. Justice Sotomayor, Justice Jackson were asking, certain types of questions there. They're getting into the weeds and trying to mess things up. And so he had to sit there and think, okay, do I really want to spend that time and answer their question? Because is there really a chance of me turning this person into from a no to a yes? Most likely no. So why spend that time? Why not focus on the yes votes and really bring it home that way? And that's what my attorney did.
Outstanding. Hey, sometimes you got to play strategy, and we know that right now the makeup of the Supreme Court is actually pretty solid, right? It's been relatively in our favor, and and the Supreme Court has in recent months, and years laid down some relatively groundbreaking types of judgments and things like that and rulings. So, the makeup of the Supreme Court is pretty solid overall. And, it is important to, understand when you got to circle the wagons and know who's on your side and who isn't. And unfortunately, it would seem that, party politics should not come into play when it comes to things like something as important as a constitutionally protected right. When you look at something that's so important. I mean, the Second Amendment is a very, very important right. That is, even people that hate guns and hate the Second Amendment cannot even begin to understand how important firearms ownership is for the civilian populace, for us to be free and for us to potentially fight tyranny and to be able to protect the words in our mouths, right? I mean, the First Amendment is followed by the Second Amendment for a reason. It's like a grocery list, right? Where everything is listed by importance, right? When you make a grocery list, what do you put at the top of that list? Milk and bread, right? Like the simple stuff that you don't want to forget about, the components that make everything else are at the top of that list. So they knew that people being free to speak whatever's on their mind and even speak out against their own government, as well as be able to protect themselves, was a very, very important thing. So you would think that party politics would not get in the way of that sacred process, that someone would be able to go, hey, well, my personal view is that I don't appreciate the Second Amendment. However, look, because I'm an objective person and in black and white, it says right here, shall not be infringed. You would think that it would be cut and dry when it's related to the Second Amendment. And you would think that their personal biases would not be interjected into the situation. However, we know that as Joe Manchin himself prevented, the Supreme Court from getting packed, right? It was only like a couple of votes, and we would have had a completely packed Supreme Court. And it was no other than Joe Manchin himself, a Democrat, who said, hey, you know, we cannot allow this revolving door to come back around and swing us and hit us in the butt. Like, if we nuke the filibuster now, when the pendulum swings in the other direction, the Republicans are going to use it against us. And he was absolutely correct in that endeavor, right? There's even people who say, what, Joe Manchin's going to leave the Democrat Party and run as an independent or something like that. But the point remains, though, even Manchin understood the importance of the checks and balances of government and not allowing the Supreme Court to be packed in the way that if the Democrats had their way, they would make the Supreme Court have 50 seats. And of course, they would hand select very carefully every single one and balance the power away from conservatives and people who want, you know, freedom.
Yeah.
So,
and some of that, and Justice RGB, she owns some of that as well, because as a Supreme Court justice, you know that when you should step down when your party is in power. That way they can elect someone, you know, from your party to that particular seat. And so instead of her stepping down when she knows her health was not at the best, she ended up dying in office. And guess what? You know, she did it under Republican president, and that's an opportunity for a Republican president to put a conservative in that seat, and that's exactly what happened. And you're absolutely correct when you're talking about, you know, the Second Amendment is a right, and that's what people forget. You know, it's called a Bill of Rights. It's not called a Bill of Needs. You know, people talk about, you know, vehicles and cars, and they try to relate cars to guns and stuff like that. Well, you know what? Vehicles, cars, that's a privilege. But the Second Amendment, that is a right. And I'm a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment.
Absolutely. So, all right. So the lawyer plays, you know, takes a 5D chess play out of the playbook here and says, hey, we're gonna really concentrate on our yeses and make sure they stay yeses, and we're gonna avoid trying to change the mind on the no's, because we know that a no is going to be a no. So
that's right.
That makeup, do you feel pretty good about where this is going?
Yes. You know what? It's surprisingly, the Supreme Court, we spent an hour and a half that entire time in court discussing what is the function of a trigger and talking about the definition of what a machine gun is. And so, you know, it went back and forth. You know, how many functions of the trigger do we have per shot? You know, that's what people have to ask themselves. You know, and what's the function of a trigger? You know, what's the definition? And here it is. I'll tell you in a nutshell. Instead of spending an hour and a half of breaking this down, here's how it goes. One action of the trigger, one round goes out. You know, that action of the trigger, one round goes out. That is a semi-automatic. An action of the trigger, I hold that trigger, more than one round goes out. That is a machine gun. Simple as that. You know, we can go back to the 1800s and talk about the Gatling gun. You know, where it was first patented back in like 1861, I think it was, and it could fire 300 rounds. We can talk about 1880s when it was able to fire, you know, 1,200 rounds per minute. You know, we're talking the Gatling gun here. So that's not on the NFA list. I can have a Gatling gun. I can fire 1,200 rounds a minute with a Gatling gun and not have to get a tax stamp. That is what we're talking about. It's not about the rate of fire. It's about the definition of what a machine gun is. And if you don't like the definition that's set, you know, for the United States, then you know what? The Congress needs to change that definition. So sad, too bad. Change it. That's the game we're playing.
You know, what's so crazy about that is the Gun Control Act, you know, it says what it says. When we look at the way the NFA was written and everything like that, and they had to define all of these terms, right? If you're going to, you know, come up with something like the NFA to codify and regulate these types of items in question, well, then you have to go through and really, you know, define what it is. What is a receiver, right? What is this? What is that? So we know that, right? We know what the definition of a single action of the trigger. We know what a definition of a machine gun is. Really, the pickle that they are in, the pickle that the ATF is in right now, is that they are trying to use de facto law. You know, they're trying to abuse Chevron deference as a rulemaking process in order to basically create the laws that carries the weight of law, or carries the punishment that has the weight of an actual law. And that's the issue. You know, they're trying to just make a definition appear out of thin air when one simply doesn't exist. And in Congress, now the thing is, we have not really had a lot of luck having pro-gun legislation make it through on the federal side, right? But even though we haven't had a lot of pro-gun legislation make it through, now let's say other than maybe like on the state level, we've gotten a lot of constitutional carry bills through, right? Louisiana being the 28th state now to adopt constitutional carry, which that's a win, right? But barring the state level stuff that is on the anti and pro side making it through in many situations, however, on the federal side, whereby there may not be a lot of appetite for pro-gun legislation, there's also not a lot of appetite for anti-gun legislation. So let's say they did want to go through Congress and change the definition of a machine gun to reflect terminology that would make it easy for them to ban bump stocks as an item, right? Which they obviously are running into some pitfalls with that because they had to abuse Chevron deference in the first place to even get this rule through in the first place, right? We see that. We know that. And the Supreme Court is comprised of very brilliant people, and they know that too. They're not dumb, right? In fact,
they play dumb, but they're really not dumb.
Right. They know. They know. And the thing is there was another ruling that had to do with Chevron deference that I guarantee is going to come up in these arguments, right? Because, you know, they cannot abuse Chevron deference when it comes to something that carries away a serious penalty, a serious criminal penalty. Like, I mean, I think one would argue it's 10 years in prison and $100,000 fine to get caught with an unregistered NFA item, right? I mean, I'd say that's a pretty severe penalty, right? And it would seem that if a law is going to carry that kind of weight and be that torturous on someone who gets caught with these evil items, right, in question, well, then it would seem that your elected representatives should have the decision to make on whether or not that should be part of the law or not. Not right. Some unelected fourth branch of government, unelected bureaucrats should not have that.
Unfortunately, some of that falls late on Texas here. You know, I'm from the Lone Star State, Texas. Senator John Cornyn, who's trying to run for, leader of the Senate, he's responsible for, coming down with this anti-gun legislation and compromising with the other side when it comes to this. So we there's some fault laid on Texas here, and I hope that we're going to correct that in the upcoming election in a few years. So we'll see. The funny part is Judge Jackson. It's funny because she understands the definition of machine gun, but for some strange reason, she can't tell us, a male or a female. She can't tell us, what the definition of a female. I find that very funny. You all of a sudden, you know what a machine gun is, but you can't tell me what the definition of what a female is. Either there's a penis or there's no penis. Either it shoots fast, it shoots by one pull of trigger, one round goes out, one pull of trigger, multiple round goes out. Which one is it? Penis, no penis, more than one round, multiple rounds. Very simple for me.
And again, it comes down to those party lines. It comes down to those tried and true talking points, those tried and true tropes, the pandering to that particular voting base. I mean, the Supreme Court seat should not be something that is like a political office. A Supreme Court seat should be something where, hey, we're going to view the facts, we're going to look at this, and we're going to objectively say, is it lawful or is it not based on the Constitution, the sacred law of the land, right? I mean, it should be a pretty simple thing. You would think that it's pretty black and white, but apparently it's not too black and white, it was, I mean, oh my gosh. So what is the strategy? I mean, we've presented these oral arguments. I mean, we made a great case. We've concentrated on the yeses. We've sort of put the no's on the back burner. What are the next steps now for the Supreme Court?
It's the government did a good job. If I was the government attorney, I would have done the exact same thing. If you don't have an argument, you can't fight it. You're trying to push a rock up the hill. What you do is you try to jump in and mutter things up, mess it up so you confuse everyone. And that's kind of what he was trying to do, and that's what he did, trying to confuse everyone. But I think my attorney did a wonderful job of clearing, the smoke and peeling through, all the minutia and actually cleaning things up a little bit. because the government, they want you to think that, they want to actually ban modern energy guns. The government wants to ban roll guns. The government wants to ban lasers because all three of those fit into their definition, what they're trying to change it to, a machine gun, which is not what the actual definition of machine gun really is. So, you have a laser, you create a laser gun, guess what? That's going to be part of the NFA list because that's considered a machine gun if we lose this case. I don't think we're going to lose. I think we're going to win because I think we're going to get a 5-4 decision or a 6-3 decision. Most likely a 5-4 decision. I think that the main crux of the case is that the ATF, the federal government, the agency within the federal government cannot create a right law. And that's the one thing that did not come out in the oral arguments, because I think all of our justices are set on knowing that, hey, you know what? This administrative agency, they cannot create a right law. That's for Congress, not for, the Supreme Court, not for an agency. That's only for Congress to do. And so I think I think they know this, and that's why they didn't come up in the oral arguments, and they were focusing on the definition of machine gun for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Of course, it's a straw man argument because they know the bull in the room is that administrative agencies do not have the ability to create de facto law out of thin air, that only Congress has the ability to create law. So this is going to be a pretty interesting thing. And look, for those of you that are, listening, everything like that, my viewers, listen, this is a very important Supreme Court case, right? Because a lot of things hinge on this Supreme Court case, y'all, because the same rulemaking process that has been abused by President Trump, look, we got to call it what it is. Trump banned bump stocks. It is what it is, y'all. He said he wanted to ban them, right? Everybody wants to talk about this and that. I mean, look, this is an election year. Tensions are high. Look at all of, in fact, another Supreme Court case just went through in Colorado said that Colorado can't remove Trump from the ballot. And these are 4 other states to try to remove Trump from the ballot. Look, we can say what we want. I'm not trying to be a Trump apologist, okay? But I am going to say Trump did not do gun owners a favor with this. However, there might be a silver lining. There might be a light at the end of the tunnel, y'all, because, all right, if the Supreme Court sees our way on this, this is going to pave the way to, hey, the frame and receiver rule, the bump stock rule. Well, this is the bump stock rule, but the brace rule, right? All of these de facto rules that the Biden administration has used to just create these, word vomit out of the top of their head that has the weight of law, right? That could all see, the light at the end of the tunnel could be there, and all that stuff could see the way of the dodo.
Yeah.
So
this is going to be,
this paves the way to get rid of all this other stuff in the future as well. Possibly even the NFA as a whole, Michael.
That's right. This is going to be the most important case of our lifetime, I think, because the ATF literally used the bump stock ban. They removed the word bump stock and inserted whatever they wanted to, to include in that, whether it's the brace, frames and receivers. They use that same framework, that same paperwork, and just remove the word bump stock. We allowed them to step in the door, and, we gave them the inch, and now they're taking the mile, thanks to some other, elected officials up there like Senator John Cornyn, which we need to probably address that in the next few years. I don't think we should have this senator should not be the head of the Senate. So I hope people are paying attention. I hope you're reaching out to your U.S. senator in your state, wherever you are, and say, hey, we don't want John Cornyn because he's not in our corner. He doesn't have our interests, at best here. He actually is a turncoat. And I think Senator John Cornyn will, sell us up the river without a paddle, without a doubt. So we got to focus on making sure that we get someone that's going to lead the Senate, that's going to, kind of have our best interests in hand, because with the Second Amendment, just like you said, Eric, with the second, we can protect all of our constitutional rights, not just the one right, all of our rights. That's why our forefathers had the foresight to make sure that the Second Amendment was the second. The first, you have your freedom of speech, and the second, you can back that up with a firearm if you have to.
That's a fact. That is a fact. So Look, guys, this case is very important and could definitely pave the way to some great things in the future for the Second Amendment. And who knows, maybe even a complete gutting of the NFA as a whole. Who knows, right? Hey, I want to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Let's throw the whole pot at the wall. I mean, you might as well, right? Let's see what happens. So I really appreciate everything that you've done, Michael. I've tried my best to help put out the word along all. I mean, I know lots of folks. I mean, there's been so many folks that have really rung this bell for Mr. Cargill here, and to get this case good notoriety and to have it on the national stage and to put it out there and really get folks behind him and supporting him. So you do have a website, or you can accept donations for this case. What's that website?
So not only this case, there's other cases that are things that we're actually trying to do, and that's the michaelcargill.com website. Go to michaelcargill.com. You'll see some of the other cases we're working on. We're going to add some other information to there, coming up in the coming months as well. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect gun store owners. We're trying to protect, try to stop the elected officials from turning millions of Americans into felons overnight. The other case is, the state of New York. The state of New York says, guess what? If I buy a gun here if you buy a gun in your state, whatever state you live in, and for some reason that gun gets stolen from you, and that gun winds up in the state of New York, the state of New York can come and sue me, the gun store owner, and the manufacturer, because that gun wind up in the state of New York and used in a crime. And I think all that stuff is crazy. So we're suing the state of New York. We're suing the ATF again in another lawsuit, trying to protect other gun store owners. We have so many things that we're working on right now. I'm just asking for people to go to our website, michaelcargill.com, and help us, because just the Bumpstock case you're talking about, that's $1 million case. That we're pushing up the hill there. Who would have thought in a million years we would make it to the United States Supreme Court? So hopefully we can pave the way for other cases to come forward in these other situations here, and we can make some changes down the road. So go to michaelcargill.com.
Outstanding. Outstanding. That's some good stuff there. I think that I want to mention too, when it comes to New York has a history of this stuff, right? Remember when Bloomberg sent all of those federal agents down to commit straw purchases? Like, we had Adventure Outdoors here. I know the Wallace family quite well, really good folks. And yeah, Michael Bloomberg tried to throw a wrench in their plans, and they did succeed in getting several gun stores shut down during that whole operation, and sending all of those federal agents down to commit straw purchases, right? Wow. So they will stop at nothing to ruin people's lives. And, to them, the ends always justify the means. They don't care what they have to do. They don't care whose freedoms they take. They don't care whose lives they ruin, as long as they achieve some sort of a goal in the end. And that's a sad state of affairs, that's what this country has turned into, Michael. That these people don't even care about their fellow Americans anymore. They don't care about the hardworking people who are just trying to make a living. They don't care that people are trying to go through the channels that are put in place to engage in the business of buying, selling firearms in a way that, now granted, okay, I don't like the way things go. I don't like having to fill out 4473s. I don't like having to do transfers. I don't like all the red tape involved selling guns. However, until we change it, that's the way it is, right? We are all doing what we have to do to make a living and to sell guns, and and more importantly, beyond selling guns, because it's a business venture, we're also arming people with knowledge and tools to be free. So there is a spiritual and moral reason for us to be engaged in this business too, because we are putting information and knowledge into the hands of people who want to protect themselves. And that is honorable and admirable, especially when there's so many other businesses that people could get involved in with a lot less red tape than running a gun shop. Guys, running a gun shop is not easy. It's grueling hours, tons of paperwork, tons of red tape, the ATF breathing down your neck. And look, the margins, if I'm really being honest, are not that great, right? You have to sell a decent amount of volume to even make a profit. So the people that are engaged in the buying and selling of firearms, especially on the FFL level and doing it, at the level that gun stores are doing it, they're providing a very important service to the community. And, to allow the government to swoop in and provide more and more and more regulation day by day is really a disservice to the goods, to the people out there who are trying to just, buy a gun to protect themselves. So it's really the end user that suffers the most. Yeah, the family running the gun shop suffers, but it's really the end user that suffers the biggest disservice, because now that's one less gun shop. That's one less place they can go and arm themselves with tools and knowledge to protect themselves and their families. So that's awesome. Make sure you go over to michaelcargill.com, as Michael said, and donate some money to help out with these cases. I mean, he's already $1 million in just on this Bumpstock case. Guys, that's $1 million well spent. And look, every dollar counts, guys. Throw a few bucks in the hat to help Michael out. Anything else before we head on, Michael?
No, that's it. You know, that's why we're reaching out to the trying to protect mom and pop gun stores. Just what you just said. We're trying to. The ATF, what they're doing is they're walking to mom and pop gun stores. They're finding little small paperwork errors, and they're trying to shut them down. And that's one of the things that we're actually trying to stop. So, like I always say, as always, more guns equals less crime. Go out there and buy yourself a gun.
Outstanding. All right. Heck yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining me this evening here, Michael. And I'm going to get this up on the channel soon, everything like that. And thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Absolutely. It's Super Tuesday. I hope everyone went out and voted.
All right. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Many more videos on the way. I hope you've all had a great day. And I apologize again for my absence. I've had a lot of crap going on. And, hey, but mentally, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling rested. I'm feeling, recharged and ready to get back to making videos. And there's a lot of information to put out. I've got a bunch of guns in to do videos with and everything like that, and some crazy stuff. So there's going to be so many things coming down the pipeline, and I appreciate you guys being patient with me. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.